Good morning, everybody. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, Dispatcher 101, soon to be Dispatcher 102, both training for beginners and intermediates, as well as the Freight Broker 101 training for beginners. I'm going to give a I'm going to give a guided tour of my website until we get some people on to the training today. So good morning, everybody. Robert.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, and Jay. I'm not sure if Jay's a guest or not.
I am. Good morning.
Oh, okay. Good morning. How are you, Jay?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Just getting things together. What brought you to Dispatcher 101?
Looking for a new business venture. Excuse me. I've heard a lot about brokering and dispatching, and finally learned the difference between the two. And I think dispatching is probably the way that I would want to go at first, and then learn more about the brokering part of it. So, new business.
Okay, so let me see. Can you give me your take? Let me mute somebody real quick. Unless that's you. Can you give me your understanding? What's the difference between what you learned? What difference between the freight broker and a dispatcher?
From what I understand, and I could totally be off base, the broker is more so for the, I guess, the companies that have the loads, and the dispatcher is for the carriers.
Okay. Yes, in a nutshell, yeah. You have some is that you? That's some background noise I hear.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so you muted yourself, which is cool, but you gave me your answer. The broker, yeah, that was you with some static in the background, but that's fine. Yes, the the broker is the. I'll give you a high level, I guess, definition. The broker is the middleman between the shipper with whom they get their loads from and the carrier with whom they sell the loads to. And the middleman meaning that they can't make their money or their spread, their percentage, without first having the loads contracted with their customer, which is the shipper. And then they'll make their money from selling those loads to the carrier at a certain rate. So, for example, let's say I'm a broker and I'm Exodus Logistics Freight Brokerage, and one of my customers is which are now IKEA that we deal with at where I'm at now. So I get loads from them. Well, first of all, before I can get loads from them, I have to persuade the shipper or get the shipper to have an agreement with me saying, okay, you're a brokerage, you have enough assets to satisfy my capacity or my need, then I'll give you that shipper broker agreement. I'll give you X amount of loads per week, and this is my target rate per load, like $5,000 or whatever. So now you got those loads from the shipper, so now all you have to do now is get assets or carriers, either contracted carriers, networked carriers, or carriers that you have under your brokerage. Because there's two types of brokerages. You can be a non-asset-based brokerage, or you can be an asset-based brokerage. The difference between the two is the assets are the actual trucks that, or the owner-operators that you have under your brokerage. So, but at any rate, the broker gets the loads from the shipper and then sells them to the carrier. So, and in both cases, there is an agreement. There's an agreement between the broker and the shipper, which is called a broker-shipper agreement, or contract. And then there is an agreement between the broker and the carrier, which is called most people call it a carrier packet, carrier agreement, whatever you call it, broker carrier agreement to get them to move the load. But the broker gets the rate from the shipper, $5,000 target rate. Then they take about 15 to 20%. Let's just go to high level, 20%. They'll mark off 20% of that $5,000, which is $1,000. So now they'll sell that load to the carrier for $4,000. So they kept the difference, the $1,000. Now in that $1,000, the broker can have wiggle room to give away extra money in order to get that load moved. So say you find a carrier and say, okay, I got a $4,000 load, Mr. Carrier. The carrier say, oh no, I want $4,500. So you got $1,000 to play with because you've already taken $1,000 off the top of that $5,000 load, and then when you presented it to the carrier, a smart carrier see that lane pays more than $4,000. So as a broker, what do? Do you lose $500 in order to satisfy this carrier and your shipper in order to continue to get loads from them because you're thinking about volume now, or do you just sit on that load and lose money? So the broker has that kind of a dilemma that they're in some cases. So, and then as a dispatcher is someone who is the middleman. Now the broker is the middleman between the shipper and the carrier. The dispatcher is the middleman between the carrier and the broker. So that's the difference. So now the dispatcher, their job is to get the carrier to say, hey, yeah, I'll do a dispatcher agreement with you, Mr. Dispatcher. We'll agree that you find me loads, and I'll give you a percentage of that for that service. Most cases, it's between 5 and 10%. So now the dispatcher has a carrier under an agreement. So now they either go on the load boards or deal directly with shippers. 80% of the time, you're going to be dealing with load boards, finding consistent loads, and then that 20%, if you're fortunate, you'll come across direct shippers, and you can eliminate the brokers as a middleman and deal directly with the shippers yourself. Now, if you are a dispatcher and you're fortunate enough to get under a dispatcher agreement, someone who has a trucking company with, like, let's say 5 to 10 assets or 5 to 10 trucks, you will look more attractive to a direct shipper when you go in front of them and say, hey, I got 10 assets. I'm a dispatcher for a trucking company. We have 10 assets. So, but if you're just dispatching for one person, then you're going to be dealing with the load boards a lot. Most shippers, it's rare or very minimal that they'll deal with dispatchers with one asset, with one trucking company, one owner-operator under their belt. It's more attractive for a shipper because of volume. Shippers are trying to move their loads out a lot. So if you got trucking companies that have a number of trucks, then you can satisfy them a little bit more readily. So, but at any rate, the dispatcher gets the carrier under a dispatcher agreement and then finds the load for them according to a specific profile that carrier wants. That carrier may want to run a certain way. They may want to run for like no less than $2 a mile. They may only want to run in certain areas of the country because they feel that if you go into a certain area, you may not be able to get out of that area. They may only run at a certain weight on their trailer, you know, the different prospects. So what we teach here at Dispatcher 101 is we get the dispatcher agreement from the carrier and the profile, which namely has all that information I just mentioned, and then we get other documents that we're going to need from that carrier up front. So when we do go to the load boards and talk to brokers, we'll have that information in front of us already, namely the MC authority, the certificate of insurance, and the W-9. Those are the documents that most brokers and shippers ask for all the time when you're booking a load. So is that your understanding of it, Jay?
Yes, I hope my cord is not giving me too much trouble. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's some static. There's some static on your end, but I heard you kind of low.
I'm sorry. I'm going to try to change out my headset, but yes, that is my understanding of it.
Okay. So now you want to you want to get into the dispatching side of it, because from what I understand and what I know actually is that the easiest entry point into this space of the transportation industry is by way of dispatching as opposed to being a broker. You have a lot of overhead costs with starting up a brokerage. You have to pay $300. You have to apply to the FMCSA for an authority to be a broker, a broker authority. You have two types of authority under the brokerage category. That's a broker of property and a broker of household goods. In either case, that's like $300 to FMCSA, non-refundable. And then you have other things you have to apply for. You have to apply for your insurance. You have to apply for your BOC3, which is a processing agent. In every state that you're going to be brokering in or getting shippers from, you need to have a processing agent. The purpose of a processing agent is to, if the claim is filed against you, that person can represent you. And one processing agent can represent more than one state. So conceivably, you can have one person representing 20 states. So that's about a third of or over half, I guess, close to half the states that you may be brokering on. So just because you need a processing agent doesn't mean you have to have one per state that you're going to be brokering in. One person can represent more than one state. That's the point. And then also too, you need you need a trust fund and a surety bond. The surety bond is called the BMC-84, and the trust fund is called the BMC-85. It used to be $10,000. Now they have raised it up to $75,000. And the premiums for that ranges between $900 and about $2,250 per month. Well, I'm sorry, per year. So you spread that out across 12 months. It's basically like an insurance policy. You get a $75,000 insurance policy. So what are your premiums? Most people think you need a $75,000 trust fund or surety bond means that you need $75,000 up front. Now, the trust fund could be in an escrow account for $75,000, but the surety bond is like having an insurance policy almost, and you're paying premiums on it to have the ability to have $75,000 coverage. In addition to that, you need like insurance, cargo and liability and things like that. So as a brokerage, because you want to show the shipper, your potential customer, that you have enough insurance to cover their freight that you're going to be hauling for them. So, but the easiest entry point to this is as a dispatcher. You do not need an NC authority to be a dispatcher. All you need is the knowledge and laptop, desktop, cell phone, maybe an e-fax solution, and maybe some load boards, access to some load boards, and then a little bit of training to get you up to speed and understanding the terminology. That's pretty much it. Your overhead to be an independent dispatcher to work from home is a lot cheaper, if any, than your overhead for a broker. So.
Okay, can you go over the trust fund part one more time for me, please?
Yeah, the trust, the criteria for the brokerage is one of the requirements, the requisites is having a BOC3, which is a processing agent, either of these two, a BMC-84 or a BMC-85. The BMC-84 is a surety bond, and the BMC-85 is the trust fund. Most people who start off as a broker, they go for the BMC-84, which is the surety bond. The trust fund is, if you got $75,000 laying around, then you would go ahead and just put the $75,000 in an escrow account, and that'll cover you for the year. But if you do not, that's why I say most people which do not have that large amount of money up front, they'll do the surety bond option, which is still $75,000, but it's spread across about monthly payments as a premium, and that range is between $900 to $2,250 a month.
Okay. So I understand you either need one or the other.
One or the other, right? It's one requirement. It's one of the requirements, but of that one requirement, you can have one or you can have two options in that particular one requirement. In other words, you need a bond. You need a bond to be a broker. And there's two types of bonds. There is a surety bond and then there's a trust fund. Both of them equal $75,000 a year. It used to be $10,000. It's been raised, I think, since 2008 or 2009 or something like that. I'm not really sure, to $75,000. So that's a qualifier for a brokerage, and it's on my website under. I do Freight Broker 101 as well, but the Freight Broker requirements. I don't know if you're on a computer now, if you can see my screen. Can everyone see my, if you can see the screen, type yes or say yes if you can speak into the chat. So I want to make sure I got the application process for a broker authority, and I'm trying to show you what it looks like as well. So, and I could have sworn I had actual documents in here under other requirements. Basic requirements of a freight broker. Okay, getting your surety bond, BMC 84, or your trust fund, BMC 85. And the surety bond, BMC 84, is a credit-based, and the trust fund is asset-based. So the surety bond, is based off of credit, and then the trust fund is based off of your assets. That's a good thing to know as well. And then there are pre-requirements for the surety bond. So if you're going to go the surety bond route in the bond category of applying to be a freight broker, hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But if you're going to, okay, here's the requirements for a broker, right? You need a BOC3, you need a bond, you need insurance, and things like that. You need your authority. So of the bond category, if there's two types, there's a surety bond and a trust fund. If you are going to go the surety bond route, there are requirements under the surety bond route. You must be a U.S. citizen, no bankruptcies in progress, like current. No judgments or liens more than $1,500, which shows financial irresponsibility. No past due child support, and no open or prior surety claims. So if you were a former broker and you shut your brokerage down for that reason and you're trying to reopen up one, if you have prior surety claims, you're going to have to get past that requirement in order to use the surety bond feature of the bond to apply for brokerage. Otherwise, you're going to have to go over to the trust fund option, the BMC 85. Okay? And then processing agent, obtaining insurance, and then, of course, your UCR. UCR is the Unified Carrier Register. You have to register with DOT and FMCSA. I think it's every year or every 2 years biennial now to keep your stuff updated. If anything changes in your brokerage, like you change an address or anything like that, then you would have to update and let them know because they want the current information. So if you get audited or anything like that and you provide things that are not up to date and current, that can ding you a little bit. So hopefully that helped a little bit, Jay.
It did. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And then I think Robert asked for, and I could have sworn I had a surety bond, a sample of what a surety bond looks like. And in this one, this is a different type of bond, but this is the gist of it. It's just pretty much a contract between two parties for a specific amount. And in our case, it's $75,000 and not $25,000. Let me look at my forms and documents. What am I looking for? Oh, tools, resources. I'm sorry. We'll go ahead and tools. All right. And let's see if it shows. Now this is all under my brokerage. There's a lot of content under here, but because one I had something, I'll get that to you guys later. I don't want to digress too much from the actual dispatch training today. But the point with Jay is that she's decided to go the dispatcher route, right? So it's an easier entry point. It's cheaper. You don't need an authority for it. All you need is just the willingness to learn, the aptitude, training, good training, and it may not be from dispatching 101 training, but good training and resources and tools. You need, if you're doing it from home, working from home, or even if you have your own office, then you would need, of course, your computer, desktop, laptop, printer, a physical fax machine or an e-fax line. Most people go with e-fax line. Business email. If you're going to do it as a business, then of course you're going to need your business license. Your, you apply for your EIN with IRS.gov. Your legal structure of your business, whether it's going to be a single member LLC, sole proprietor, partnership, however you decide to do that for whatever tax advantages that'll be for you and your business. And then some software, namely the main software you're probably going to need, like maybe something like QuickBooks to keep track of your accounting stuff, and then, of course, access to the load boards. Now, Dispatcher 101, if a person enrolls into this, going forward, the enrollment and in the subscription base, you have access to our load boards. We have about 10 load boards, and I just recently updated and added, for those of you who do not know, 123 load board is available. So for those of you who are enrolled members and you go to the login area for the load boards, if you either through the orientation once you enroll or through module 2 load boards, you will have 123 load boards as an option. So right here, if you click anywhere in this area, you can select the different load boards that we have. If you are an enrolled member, you have the email and passwords for those load boards. So here, if you click here to 123 load board, and for those of you who do not know, a load board is an online software that's used by brokers and shippers and carriers, owner-operators, to access loads. So shippers and brokers post loads. Dispatchers do not post loads. I repeat, dispatchers do not post loads. Dispatchers represent their carriers. They go on the load boards. And now with your carrier's permission, you can post their truck as being available, but you do not post loads because you're not a broker. But the load boards, the shippers and the brokers post the loads, the carriers go on the load boards, or the dispatchers representing their carriers go on the load boards and search the loads for the carriers according to their specific criteria. So for example, navigating this, find loads, 123 load board. So I want to give me a area to find a load for. So we go here to find loads when you first log in. just give a brief navigation of how to find a load. So if there's someone in the training now who has a carrier or may not have a carrier but just want to see how to navigate 123 load board, you can unmute yourself and then tell me, give me a lane or an area, an origin and a destination, and an equipment type. So no one has a carrier that's looking for a load. Hey, Talina, how you doing, by the way? Eric, how you doing, Eric? I got your email, by the way, Eric. Angela, I think you got Smooth, right? Have you communicated with Smooth, right? Okay. And I'm trying to remember who asked me for Carter. Someone asked me for Carter. Who was that? Who was that? Carrier. Somebody asked me for Carter. Oh, okay, Demontre, he's not in the training right now. Someone asked me for. So are you guys still having trouble finding carriers? Like calling and things like that? So Jay, what other questions do you have about dispatching specifically?
I think you covered for me the basis of it and cleared up a little bit more of the understanding between the two. But this is my first go at it. I saw your training online this morning, so I was kind of glad to see it. And so I'm just here to just navigate along with you guys and hopefully learn enough to either join the training or, you know, whatever. I'm sure you'll convince me some way or another.
So how much, I mean, do you know about trucking? Do you have any experience or any knowledge of the industry? Like, do you know what equipment types are? Do you know what a load board is? Do you know, like, if you were to start dispatching right now, do you think you would be able to, well, not even dispatching, but if you, like, you're about to start training, so do you have, like, an understanding of, okay, how to get a carrier, and if I do get a carrier, how to find them a load based off of what's the dialogue that I'm going to have between myself, the dispatcher, and the carrier in order to convince them that I'm their person to dispatch them for them. Then once you get past that phase, because that's a phase, the next phase is, okay, now I got a carrier under the agreement. So now what do I do? Now I got to find them a load. Okay, well, how do they want their loads? How much do they want a mile? Where do they want to go? Where they don't want to go? What how much weight they want to haul? What is their equipment type? What are they hauling? Is it a dry van, reefer, flatbed? So the terminology from a basics perspective, you know, understanding that. And then when you call a broker, between you, the dispatcher, and the broker, what's that dialogue? What are you going to say in order to book that load? So
well, those are definitely some things I'll need the training on. I have a brother that is a carrier, and so I understand I guess you could say the elementary portion of the vocabulary. So I get that part, you know, what is a carrier, what is a broker, the truck. I understand some of the trucks. I have done some reading, so some of them I understand, some of them I do not. But when it comes down to like you said, the dialogue of how you get the relationship with the carrier, and then having a relationship with the broker, those are two things that I would definitely need some assistance with.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the day in the life of a dispatcher from the very beginning, like right now. But let me answer Eric's question. Yes, we do have Internet Truck Stop as one of those we have access to as well. Yeah, did I not send that to you, Eric? You're a subscription member. You're enrolled, so I need to email that to you. But yes, to show you, we do have Internet Truck Stop as well. So I have two different logins. One is for non-subscription based, those who were enrolled prior to me doing a subscription based in addition to the enrollment. And then another one is for everyone else, I guess, if you will. So here's Internet Truck Stop. I'm logging in because I've been hearing from different people that they're having trouble logging in. So I'm logging in the recording to kind of prove that the logins work. I just purchased this login for 123 Load Board. So everybody, when you go back to the Dispatcher 101, under either orientation or under Load Boards sublinks, you're going to see a PDF for the logins to all the load boards. You will only have access to this area once you have enrolled into it. Right now, I'm just letting everybody see it. I'm not going to click the PDF because I don't want to expose the actual logins, but I just want to show you that it is there and that I did change it to update the load board logins with the current load boards we have. But there's about 10 or 11 load boards that's included with the enrollment, 3 ebooks, a glossary, 2 live online trainings, and then access to any questions and things like that. So there's a lot of content that's available to learn. So here's 123 Load Board, here's Internet Truck Stop, and then the other is the other main one is the Trucker's Edge. So those are the 3, that Trucker's Edge. So I'm going to log into that too just to show, and then I'll just log out just to prove that it's available. So there we go. So these are 3 of the higher end. I would say, and if you rate them from 1, 2, and 3, I would say Internet Truck Stop is 1, that Trucker's Edge is 2, and then 123 Load Boards is 3. But these are the 3 ones that are at least provided for the subscription base in addition to the others. So we're in each of those. And I'll navigate in, as a matter of fact, I'm going to leave them all up as I go through the example of the day in the life of a dispatcher from start to finish for Jay. By the way, Jay, what equipment type does you said your husband or brother?
My brother, he just started with a gentleman, he's been doing this for about 3 years, so he just started with another gentleman. So I hadn't been able to touch bases with him to find out what type of equipment that they have. So I'm, just learning.
Okay, so let's do this. So when you first come into the Dispatcher 101 training for beginners, right? If you enroll, of course, we have live online trainings with what we're doing now. We have the enrollment link for those who are interested in enrolling, right? So see, it's raining in my area, so excuse the lag in. There we go. So that's the enrollment area, and then we have the back office setup. So after you enroll, the next step would be back office setup, okay, where you go in and you submit an email and password that you're going to need to access everything else from orientation all the way down to the very end, all the other links. Because from orientation, or actually from chat all the way down to the end, you're going to need an email login and password. And in the chat group, we have I'm tweaking an internalized chat center for members who are enrolled where we can talk to each other internally. Because as you know, Facebook has eliminated their chat feature for their groups, at least for Dispatcher 101. I can't speak for other groups. So here we have our internalized website chat group. And then, so after back office setup, you have orientation. Orientation is where you receive your 3 free ebooks, your glossary of terms, and also here's another area for the logins for the load boards, and then you just answer a few questions. There's like a 30-minute orientation video, but that's nothing. And then after that, you go to business setup. Is going to be, I haven't finished that yet, but it's going to explain how to set up your business as home business as a independent freight dispatcher, what legal structure to choose, how to get your EIN, and things like that. So the very next thing is the modules. The first module is carrier acquisition. Then you have load boards, booking the load, and invoicing the carrier. And everything else is just tools and resources and all the forms and documents you need. And then all the training videos which are recorded are in the training videos sections. They're grouped by months and the day in that month and the title of that video, so they're easy to find. And then we have other Dispatcher 101 ebook, a further explanation of that, and then the glossary. So carrier acquisition is the first thing that, as an independent dispatcher who is going through Dispatcher 101 training for beginners, will come to. Carrier acquisition means that you're trying to get a carrier or an owner-operator under a dispatcher agreement so that you can start finding loads for them, booking those loads, invoicing that carrier to get paid so you can start making money. So this is the first step. So as an independent dispatcher, you need to have a carrier. Otherwise, you can't dispatch, right? You're not going to be able to make any money. So Module 1, there is a YouTube video. Every section has a YouTube video explaining that specific section, so there's more content. But Module 1 is carrier acquisition. We talk about the 3 equipment types that we target the most, because those are the equipment types that are out here moving the freight and the commodity the most. That's why we target them, because it makes it easier for you to find loads for those carriers of those equipment types once you get them under agreement, because those are the loads that are moving the most. So does that make sense? So we have 53-foot dry vans, reefers, and trailers. So the dry van, this is an example of what a dry van trailer looks like. Here's a reefer or a refrigerated trailer. It's the same as a dry van. It just has what's called a TCU, a temperature control unit, on the front of it to help keep cool what's inside the trailer or the freight or the commodity. And then the next one, or the third one, is the 48 to 53-foot flatbed, and that's an example of what that looks like. So now, how do we get these carriers to say, hey, I want you to be my dispatcher? So we have methods used to do that. Methods used to get carriers, to acquire carriers under a dispatcher agreement and a profile. Well, before we go into that, what is a dispatcher agreement and what is a profile? Well, the dispatcher agreement is the contract, if you will, between you, the dispatcher, and the owner-operator, the truck driver, and the carrier. Now, company drivers, I tend to shy away from because they work for a company and they usually have internal dispatching departments in that company. We want to target owner-operators, those who are out there with their own authority and their own DOT trying to make money for themselves and their family. That's what we try to target. So, let's see. So what's a dispatch agreement and what's a profile? So the dispatch agreement, under forms and documents under Dispatcher 101 on the website, dispatch agreement and profile. So the dispatch agreement is the actual contract, again, between the owner-operator and the carrier. And this is what ours look like. Now, when you start your business, I just put this here as a template. You guys can take this information and tweak it for your specific business or your specific dispatching company. If you have a logo, put it here. Your contact information, put all that here. This is just a template to follow. If you have your name, your phone number, your company email, and a website if you have it, it makes it just look more professional. Then the dispatch agreement, it explains what it is. You know, this dispatch agreement, the carrier, the owner-operator, truck driver is actually filling this out for you. So their information is going here. Their name or the name of their trucking company goes there. So let's say ABC Trucking, which is, and I got in parentheses, the carrier, owner-operator of truck number 1, trailer number 2, MC number 12345, DOT number 67890, or whatever. Hereby grants authorization, permission to The yellow highlighted name is your name, the dispatcher. Let's just say J, to act as my agent for the sole purpose of searching for and booking loads, processing all brokerage paperwork, and obtaining, submitting all necessary documents in order to expedite loads and dispatch, and whether you do that through the phone, fax, or email for my truck, license number, whatever the license number, and then whatever operating state that they are based out of. So that paragraph right there says it in a nutshell. What is an MC? What is a DOT? These are unique numbers that are given to independent owner-operators with their own authority. The MC authority is the motor carrier authority. There are 4 types. The most basic one that most carriers out here is using is the common carrier authority. The other 3 are contracted carriers, passenger carriers, and household goods. Examples of contracted carriers are those who are just under a specific trucking company. Passenger carriers are like, you know, you see these charter buses out here riding, these Chinese, they call them Chinese buses, or just busing, Greyhound, any that's going to transport passengers. And then the household goods, HHG, are the moving companies. So those are examples of the other 3 authorities, MC authorities. The main one for us that we need to focus on are the common carrier authorities. So if you look on a MC authority letter, which I'm going to show you now, MC authority have PDFs. So these are documents that you can see what they look like in case you're curious to know what they look like. This is what an MC authority letter looks like. It's issued through DOT by way of the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. If you look right here, it says the type of authority that this particular person had. I shade out their name for privacy purposes, but I kept the base information in here. They are a common carrier. They're a common carrier. So their MC authority is a common carrier authority of property except household goods. So they are a common carrier. So that's what you'll see this all the time when you start booking loads. You're going to see that all the time. Okay? All billing, invoicing, and collections of revenue from customers, brokers, shippers, consignees, etc., are the sole responsibility of the carrier. Now, before I go into detail about that, this first paragraph, does anyone have a question about the understanding of what that first part was in the dispatcher agreement? No? Okay. All right. Pretty straightforward, right? So all the billing, invoicing, and collection of monies is the carrier's responsibility. It's not the dispatcher's responsibility. It's the carrier's responsibility. All we do as dispatchers is find the loads for them and book those loads. But them getting their money is their responsibility. That's not our job. So you have to remember that. If revenue for a shipment or shipments is uncollectible, your name is here, which is highlighted. The dispatcher, in this case my name, will be held harmless and no penalty or deduction of fees will be made. Because it shouldn't be. In other words, what this is saying is if the carrier is having trouble getting their money or getting paid from a job that they did, you're not responsible for that. You're not liable for that. All you did was dispatch that load and book that load. The load is, when you book a load, that is a contract between the broker and your carrier. You're just representing your carrier. So the contract is between the broker and the carrier, not you. You're just an intermediary for your carrier to get that load, to get to that contract load for your carrier. So you shouldn't be held harmless, but it needs to be in writing so it can protect you as the dispatcher. And that one sentence makes a difference. If it wasn't there, you may have carriers coming after you saying, oh man, you owe me some money. I don't owe you no money. It wasn't my load. I'm not the broker. I'm just dispatching, finding loads for you. I've had that happen. So the carrier agrees to maintain all proper licenses and permits to conduct business as a motor carrier in the state of intended operation. In other words, this paragraph right here is saying that those 3 documents, the certificate of insurance, the MC authority, and the W-9, the carrier needs to maintain and keep them updated and keep them from expiring in order to, because he can't book a load without updated paperwork, without updated documentation. Then right here, I'll just say dispatcher because this highlighted areas where your name will go. In other words, this is a template for you guys to follow. So the dispatcher would be held harmless in the event of any and all claims. What is a claim? If the carrier delivers a load late or it's damaged, sometimes the receiver files a claim with the carrier or the trucking company that the carrier drives for. So if that happens, this line here protects you as the dispatcher from being involved in that claim. As it should, because you were not in that truck driving with the carrier when that happened. So you have no involvement in how that freight got there. Again, you just booked the load for the carrier. And then the fee for dispatching services, in this case, in this example, is 10%, including dedicated lanes. All right? Any questions so far? All right. Again, and then here as load, basically what this is saying is once the carrier is paid, then you are paid. That's the agreement between you, the dispatcher, and the carrier. So as loads are picked up, delivered, and the carrier is paid first, an amount equal to the above stated percentage or pricing scheme will be payable, and then your name is here. And then however you want to be paid, whether it's through PayPal, whether it's through Square, however you want to be paid, you'll put your information here. I just use PayPal in this example. So, and they can pay for it with a credit or debit card. So, and then this line here is almost like a power of attorney. It says here, by the carrier initially right here, it's saying that the carrier also authorizes dispatcher to complete carrier setup packets for any and all brokerages on the carrier's behalf, as well as complete any and all rate cons on carrier's behalf. So by the carrier initializing that, he or she is giving you permission to fill that information out for them, which makes the process of booking a load faster. And someone just called me the other day asking the question, well, when I fill that out, do I put my information in or do I put the carrier's information in? You definitely put the carrier's information in. You're filling out the carrier packet, the agreement. A carrier packet is an agreement between the broker and the carrier, not the broker and the dispatcher. The reason is the broker and the carrier is the one who's hauling that load for that broker, not the dispatcher. So the carrier's information should be filled out on the carrier setup packet, not the dispatcher's information. Now, there may be a line in the setup information where it asks for the name of the dispatcher. You can put your name there, but the main contract between the broker and the carrier that's the carrier's information. You're just filling it out on their behalf for them with using their name, not yours. Okay? And then everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. And that's it for the dispatch agreement. So that's part one of that contract between you, the beginner dispatcher, and the carrier with whom you are trying to sign up for a dispatcher agreement. The second one is the profile sheet. So the second thing you send to the carrier is the profile sheet. This is the carrier telling you how they want to run. So when you're going out searching for loads, you cater your load search to this profile, this form. This up here is just basic information: who they are, where they live, do they want to go in the mountains, yes or no, what equipment type do they have, whether it's a flatbed, dry van, or reefer, and whether it's 48 or 53 foot. Do they do long haul, over the road long haul? If so, what states? Because you need to know this when you look for loads, you can point loads in that direction. Do they do short haul, yes or no? Do they do heavy hauls? What is the max load capacity of their trailer? In other words, what's the most that they're willing to haul in their trailer? It may not be the max. Some trailers haul up to 45,000. They may only want to haul 40 because they want to save on fuel costs and things like that. What days do they want off, if any? And then the main question, which is highlighted, how much money do they need to move their truck? In other words, what's the least amount they want to be paid cents per mile? For some equipment types, it's $2 a mile. For some, it's $2.50 a mile. For some, it's $1.80 a mile. So whatever that number is, they're going to put that there. And you can compare that number when you receive this form back to the national averages or the national rates to get an idea if they are just giving you, they're just blowing smoke at you. So, and that's it for that. That's the dispatch agreement and the profile. And then also when I send out a dispatch agreement and profile to a potential carrier, I'm also asking them for other documents. And these are the other documents that I'm asking for. The MC authority, which I just showed you, a copy of their MC authority, and I need a copy of their W-9, which is what this is, and then a copy of their certificate of insurance, which is what this looks like. So does anyone need me to explain what these are and why they are needed by you in order to book a load? All right. So after you get your dispatch agreement profile and these 3 documents returned to you from your carrier, now you need to find loads for them, right? So, but before that, I went off kilt a little bit. I was in the carrier acquisition. So even prior to getting the carrier, how is that done? How do we get the carriers to say, hey, I want to sign up for a dispatch agreement? Well, there are several ways, and these are the methods to get them. If you stay within a certain radius or mile range from a local truck stop, you can visit the truck stops and start a conversation with the carriers, saying, hey, I'm an independent dispatcher. Are you an owner-operator with your own authority in DOT? They'll say, yeah. You see their equipment type because they're either standing right in front of it or in the truck stop, and they'll tell you. Start a conversation. Let them know that you can help them with their loads, finding loads. Ask them where they're going now. Are they empty? When are they going to be empty on their next load? Start up a conversation. If you're going to have business cards and flyers at the truck stops, make sure you get the permission from the management to put them on their bulletin boards to advertise your business. So that's number one. You can physically show your face at a truck stop, conversate with the owner-operators. Number two is the cold calls. Calling carriers to see if they are empty or looking for a load or under a load. One of the main resources that we use to do that is Truckers Path. And I'll give you an example of what that is here now. So here's Truckers Path. Truckers Path is it has a load board feature, and it also has a feature where you can search for trucks. So I'm going to sign in. We have this in our back office to sign in to Truckers Path. While it's doing that, I'm going to also use the Safer website to look up and vet out the carriers as well. This is the FMCSA Safer website. You can look up DOT, MC, or the name of the company. But here's Truckers Path, or Trucker Path, or Truck Loads is called. So when you first log in, you'll get to this screen right here. First thing I do is select Truck Search, and then in this gray boxed area, when you first select Truck Search, it's going to have a predetermined amount of carriers in all the states, once it gets done logging in. So 220, today is Sunday, the 20th of October, so it has 220 carriers in all states who are currently logged in right now as we speak, either empty or looking for their next load for the following week. So and posted a minute ago, this is the name of the person. so on and so forth, right? So what I do is I filter out in this search criteria area. I leave all states selected, so uncheck any to erase everything, and I select the 3 main equipment types, and then I select just satisfactory as a safety measure. I don't want to have a carrier whose safety rating is conditional or unsatisfactory, because that decreases the chances of me getting a load from a broker, because the broker is also running the MC and DOT of that carrier, and if they see a safety rating that's conditional or unsatisfactory, then they're going to be a little bit apprehensive about getting a load to them or considering giving them a load. So now I hit search because I've changed the search criteria. So now this 220 should change to a number that's less. So any questions so far while I'm doing this? All right. So now you have, this is how you read this from across. They posted 1 minute ago. This is Mitchell Trucking. He actually has 2 postings. He must have put it in there twice. All the ratings are going to be satisfactory because we selected that as a criteria. His equipment type is a dry van. Here's his information, his name, and his phone number. But if you notice at the end of each line, there's a little blue drop-down arrow. You click that, open it up. It provides more information. And it has an MC number. Sometimes it'll have an MC number, sometimes it'll have a DOT number, other times it'll have both. So what I do is I copy that number and put it into our Safer website. Now it was an MC, so I'm going to select the MC radio button as opposed to DOT or name, and then put that value in there and search that person specifically. So now this person is he's a carrier. His entity type is carrier, which means that he's a potential. Now if it said carrier/broker, you don't want to get into what's called double brokering. You don't want to get involved in that. And he has 1 power unit, so he's a one-man team. He's an owner-operator. He drove in 2018. He had 81,000 miles, almost 82,000 miles last year. He had his authority. He either renewed his UCR, his Uniform Carrier Registration, back in the 25th of July in 2019. This is how you read that. And then here's his information and his phone number. Mitchell Trucking. And then what you would do is you would just call him, Johnny Mitchell, see if he's under load, see what he needs. He's currently, if you look at his information, he's in Florida right now. So he may be trying to find something to get out of Florida. So then you will call him. So let's call him. A live call in the training. I don't know if, let's see, what is it? Hello, can I speak to Johnny Mitchell, please?
This is he.
How you doing, sir? My name is Charles. I'm with Exodus Dispatching Services. Are you under load, or are you looking for something?
I'm under a load. I'm under a load. I'll be delivering, then I'm looking for a load for tomorrow. I probably got one already going to Miami, so I'm pretty good.
Okay, so you're already straight.
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so he says he was straight. But for those of you who are like nervous when you call carriers, the key is just to start the conversation. You know, my pitch is, it used to be how much money you need to move your truck, but now it's I'm speaking their language. I'm asking about, you're under load. He understood exactly what I said. Are you under load, or are you looking for something? So he says he's under load now, which means he's loaded. He's about to deliver something, and then he's going to Miami, so he's probably got to find something down there to get him back where he needs to go. So he's pretty straight. So I would just move on to the next person. He's a flatbed, and just do the same thing. Try to pitch to the carriers to get them to agree for you to be their dispatcher for them. Once they say yeah, let's say for example, John Mitchell would have said yeah, then we would have just emailed him from our business email or whatever email you're using the dispatch agreement and profile, and then within the body of the email we would have told him to send back. As a matter of fact, let me show you what that would look like. So let's say that conversation between Johnny Mitchell and I went in the way of the dispatcher, and he wanted a dispatcher to help him find loads. Okay. So what would you do next? So let's not leave any stone unturned, right? So what would you have done next? You would have sent out the dispatcher agreement and the profile to that email. So I'm going to log into my email. And then I would have composed an email to Johnny and attached a copy of the dispatch agreement and profile and put some information in the body of the email about who we are and what we do. So let me see what this 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is just showing that I actually purchased the 1, 2, 3 load board. So there's proof that I just purchased it. It's $55 a month. So what I do, I will compose the email to Johnny. I'm not going to send it, but I just want to give you an example. So here's his information. I would have put that in there, and then I would have just said something like dispatcher agreement. And this is just an example of and profile and carrier profile. Because I would have sent it out fresh because I just had a conversation with him. He would have got the email and was still been on his mind, right? And then I'm going to put something in the body of the email so he can understand dispatcher agreements, email body. I got an email body that I usually put in and I'm going to, let me attach the dispatch agreement. So I'm going to put the profile and the dispatch agreement into the email. And then in the body of the email, this is my little email body thing that I generated. You guys can use it as a template as well. So I put that in the body of the email, a little bit about the company, who I am, and there's the dispatch agreement profile, and then I hit send. And they get that, they open this up and read it, talks about who I am, gives an example of why we charge 10% and why 10% or whatever the percentage is not going to affect their pocket because we're getting it from the broker side. And they read that as a carrier, they kind of understand that a little bit better. So you follow along so far, Jay?
I am. Thank you. Now, just to go over when you say that you're getting it from the broker side, so they lose nothing.
Okay.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So like even in the email body, I give an example because I say, this is what they're going to read. So pretend you're the carrier and you're reading this email. You just received an email from a potential dispatcher. It has the dispatch agreement and the profile attached to it for you to fill out and return along with the other documents, the MC Authority, W-9, and certificate of insurance. You're reading the body of the email, and you get here, it says, okay, rate for a load, 10% fee. These rates are fair considering the type of service involved. Also, the dispatching fee will be added on top of the gross rate, so no money is taken for you. For example, if a load is $3,000 gross rate, in other words, if a broker posted a load on the load board for $3,000, 10% of $3,000 is what? $300, right? Right, Jay?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay, so 10% of 3,000 is, I would go back to the broker and or shipper and ask for 3,300 or more in order to cover my $300 dispatching fee. 3,000 times 10% is 300. And I say, fair enough, you lose nothing. I try to be as open and transparent as possible. So I'm giving them an example of how I do it. So if I find a load, so for whatever that load is on the load board, I'm going to add 10% on top of it and always ask the broker for more to cover my cost. So if a carrier hears that, they say, okay, well, I'm not losing money. You're basically doing my work for free. That's what they're thinking. But no, I'm not, because I'm getting the money from the broker side. Now, does that always work? No. Does it work a large percentage of the time? Yes. So,
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
all right. So this is what the email that will be composed, and then I sent it. I'm not going to right now because he said he didn't need a, so I'll delete that, and that's gone. So let me refresh this. Now, after, let's say Johnny Mitchell did agree, he sent all the documents back, and you have a carrier under a dispatcher agreement. Now what do? Now you go out to the load boards and look for loads for them, right? That's your next step in the evolution of dispatching. You've gotten your carrier under agreement. You formed your business. You've gotten your carrier under an agreement. They've sent back the documents you sent them. So now you have to find loads for them, right? So that's the next step in the evolution. So now let's say that, so give me a carrier or an equipment type of a carrier that you feel that you probably have an easier time working with, whether it's a flatbed, a dry van, or a reefer. Jay.
Dry van.
Dry van. So where are you based out of? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Okay, so Florida. So let's say Jacksonville. Let's say you're a carrier who's a dry van, if I can spell Jacksonville correctly. Jacksonville. Now, this is one of the load boards. This is Internet Truck Stop. So I'm looking for a load. So you can either do a quick search. Let me start over. You can either do the quick search way, or you can go over here to New Search. Let's click New Search and do it that route. It'll open up another window. So Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm not sure if you've used a load board before, Jay, or not.
Never.
Okay, so here you have most load boards. They're typically going to have some of the same information. They're just offered differently and provide more features than others. That explains the price difference. But the base information always on the load board. You're always going to have an origin of where a load is being picked up from. You're always going to have a destination of where the load is being delivered to. You're always going to have an equipment type to know what type of truck that's hauling that load. You're always going to have a pickup date. And things like that. So those are the common things. The differences and the other features determines whether the load board is better than the other price and so on and so forth. So in this case, our origin, the origin is always going to be the shipper that you're picking up the load from. The destination is always going to be the receiver that you're, so in other words, the shipper or the consignor is two different names: origin, shipper, consignor. You might see that. Destination is where you're delivering it to, or the receiver that's getting the freight, or the consignee that's getting the freight. So we're going to leave this blank just to see how many loads that we can get coming out of Jacksonville, Florida for a dry van. So equipment type, you said van. So we're going to select van, dry van. And let's say the pickup date is tomorrow, which is Monday, the 21st. We're going to leave the mode as any. You can select truckload. LTL is less than truckload, intermodal, partials, dry edge, whatever. I'm going to say all. All right? Just to leave it open. Pickup date is any time. You can select different times within 2 hours, last 8 hours, whatever. I'll say any time. Everything else is the same. I don't have a specific destination because I want to have more options of finding a load for this particular dry van carrier coming out of Jacksonville, Florida, within a 100-mile deadhead radius. Okay? So I'll hit add to my search, close. Let's go ahead and do that. So now we got 23 for a van, 23. I'm going to minimize that. Let me get rid of these two. Delete that one. So I got Jacksonville going anywhere, picking up tomorrow. 23 total loads. I'm going to click this to open it up to see what the 23 are. I'm going to open it up so I can get more instead of 10. I'm going to say 50 so it can show all 23. And then, so now all 23 are shown, and then I'm going to put it in order of highest paying load to smallest paying load, and as it relates to price. So I'm going to click the rate link, and it'll change it to highest to lowest. Okay? You follow so far?
I'm with you.
Okay. So now you have the company are either the broker or shippers, their contact information, the trailer type is a van, the age, how long ago this load was posted. This is 9 hours ago, 9 hours plus. The mode is the type of load, whether it's a truckload, TL, or LTL, less than truckload. Pickup date, all Monday because I selected Monday. The origin city is Jacksonville or anything within a 100-mile deadhead radius. So that's why you see other cities and states within 100 miles, right? Destination cities is anywhere because I didn't select a specific area, all right? And then you have the rate. You have the length of the truck, sometimes 53, sometimes 48. The weight, how much it's hauling. Dry vans can haul up to 45,000, 44,500, something like that. This is 20,000, so it's a light. It's a truckload, but it's light. Truckload means it's going to fill up the whole trailer, but it only weighs 20,000 pounds. It's going 2,200 miles. It's paying $2,200, but 2,222 miles. So is that a good load as it relates to cents per mile?
I don't know.
To figure out the cents per mile, let me open up a calculator. Cents per mile is calculated if you take the rate of the load, what it's paying. So let's just say, example, a load is paying $5,000. And you divide that by the total miles that the load is going. So say it's going 1,500 miles for $5,000, no matter what equipment type. I'll just give you an example of how to calculate cents per mile. So now it's paying $3.33 a mile. So now if we go back to our example, which is this one here, and if you take that same formula, you take the rate that is paying, 2,200, and you divide that by the practical miles and the actual miles that it's going. Sometimes it'll have the actual distance down here. In this specific load board, they'll have the actual miles. Other load boards, they may not. But so if they don't, then we'll use the practical miles. The practical miles is calculated by literally map questing Jacksonville to Ogden, and you'll see it's 22, not zip code to zip code, but actually city to city. So going back to the calculator, 2,200 divided by 2222, that's going to be less than $1 a mile. That's a pretty cheap load. That's paying 99 cents a mile for a dry van going from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way over to the mountains over there in Ogden, Utah. So now again, you tell me, is that a good is that a good load? That's not a good load, exactly. Especially if you got a profile back from your carrier saying, hey, I want at least $1.75 to $2 a mile for my load, so I'm not hauling. So let me pull up the map. And of the United States that I have. So here's the map of the United States. So let's blow it up a little bit. So Jacksonville, Florida is here. If you can see my screen, they're going all the way over to like Ogden, Utah, this is the state of Utah. I can't see the city specifically. I think it's somewhere near the capital. But here's Salt Lake City, here's Provo. So Ogden is somewhere there. So they're probably going to take the panhandle, like I-10 or whatever, down here to lower, and then go up across. Try to avoid as much as the Rocky Mountains as possible, so they'll come the southern way and then come up this way, as opposed to going up this way. So, at any rate, it's hauling that amount of that much freight, 22,000 pounds or 20,000 pounds, that distance. So now you have to understand a little bit of math to figure out the cents per mile that your carrier is asking for, and then factor that into the loads that you're looking for them. Like this one here, this is ridiculous. But this LTL, it's a light load, it's only 2,000 pounds. It's paying $600, but this can go into probably a box truck. It's an LTL, the straight truck, $600 for 2,000 pounds, but it's going 1,200 miles. That's ridiculous. So that's paying like a little under 50 cents a mile. Now a straight truck might do that, but that's crazy. 49.5 cents a mile to go from Daytona, Florida up to Massachusetts. So those are the things you have to factor in when you're looking for load for your carrier on the load ports. Okay?
Do they normally lowball like that?
No, they do not, and your negotiation skills come in. But this is LTL. This is less than truckload. This is going on a box truck. You would have to say, look,
okay.
You have to say, look, I want at least $1 a mile. So if you want $1 a mile, if you wanted $1 a mile for this LTL load, right, then you would say, how much would that be? If you calculate it, okay, I want $1 a mile, so you're going to take $1 times the number of total miles to get your new rate instead of the 600. So you'll take how much you want per mile, which is $1, right, and then multiply that by the miles, the 1,212 miles. So you're going to get $1,212, about $1,200, basically. So that's how you figure out. Or I want 75 cents a mile. Then you will take 75 cents times the total miles, 1,212. So you want $900, $909. But anything over 1,000 miles for LTL, for less than truckload that can go on a box truck, you want to charge at least $1 a mile. That way you're making your money. 2,000 pounds. So I'm trying to find one that's at least a decent. This is over $1 a mile because it's $880 and that only 650 miles, but it's going from Baldwin, Florida, which is 19 miles deadhead from Jacksonville. That's how you read this. And it's going to Lafayette, Louisiana. So 650 miles is paying $880. So now you're saying, okay, well, I'm making 880 divided by 650. I'm making $1.35 a mile. It doesn't show the weight. You probably have to call them and get that. Sometimes some brokers don't post what they're paying for the load. Other brokers don't post how much the load weighs. So that's where you call the broker and get that information. So you would click on this one, open up more details about that load, to get those other questions answered when you call them. And this is the load for this specific load board, this is the load details area, this column right here. So a lot of these unknown questions that are not answered when you call them. So here's the next step. So in the evolution, so we've gotten our carrier under a dispatch agreement. We've gotten the dispatch agreement back, all the documents that we needed. Let's say we found a load for them. So now we're calling the broker and say, hey, Mr. Broker, I'm looking at a load that's I'm looking at a dry van or reefer load that's going from Baldwin, Florida on the 21st to Lafayette, Louisiana. Is this load still available? That's how you would ask them. Is the load still available, number one? Because anything after that, if the load is not available, there's no point in continuing the conversation. So if the load is still available, say, yeah, the load's still available, let me check. They're going to say, what's your MC number? You give them the MC number of the carrier that you have under agreement. If you do not have a carrier under a dispatch agreement, I do not recommend giving an MC number to a broker. Why? Because that broker will go behind your back. He'll say, oh, by the way, yeah, that load's gone. And then as soon as you hang up the phone with them, they're going to turn around and do what? They're going to call that carrier and book that load behind your back. So it's good to be protected under a dispatch agreement with your carrier. I've had cases where my carrier called me and said, hey, man, did you just call this particular broker? They tried to book a load with me. I said, yeah, I just spoke. And then I called the broker back and told them about themselves. I almost reported them because that is unethical practices. You can report brokers as well as report carriers for stuff like that, and they can get their broker authority or their carrier authority dinged for that, for unethical practices.
So once you have a carrier under contract, until that contract is dissolved for whatever reason, any load that they have will come through you?
No. Any load that you find for them and you book for them comes through you. But they can get loads from they can get their own loads, but say they find their own loads and they're booking their loads, you're not paid for that because you didn't find that load. But the loads that you find for them and you go through that process of the broker, booking the load, getting the rate confirmation and all that stuff that's involved in that, then yes, you are compensated for that because that is your load with that carrier. But a carrier can have more than one dispatcher. I have carriers who have me as a dispatcher as well as other people. It's just that they call on me sometimes. Like they'll call on me when they're stuck in certain areas and they can't get out of with the dispatcher that sent them to an area that they couldn't get out of, because some dispatchers don't understand lanes, don't understand areas of the state and seasons. There's certain types of year that you send carriers to certain areas that they can get out of in the country, and in other seasons where you cannot send them to that same area. Like in Florida, for example, you have the season of like oranges and different produce and things like that, but then when that season is up, it's hard for a specific equipment type to get out of Florida once they get in. Like dry vans, reefers can get out, flatbeds sometimes can get out, they can take a cheap lumber load. In other cases, they're going to have to just deadhead to like Atlanta or deadhead to somewhere in southern Georgia to get a load just to get out. But if you way down here in Miami, I would take cheap freight to get up to, let's say, Orlando, and then Orlando to Jacksonville, cheap freight just to get out, just to cover my fuel. I wouldn't deadhead empty without a load from Miami all the way up, because now I'm losing money as a carrier. So, and as a dispatcher, it's good to know that and understand that. And know sometimes eventually you're going to have to know what your carrier's numbers are as it relates to, what's their break-even point, and then everything after that is profit. So most carriers, they're covering, their main costs are, of course, truck, trailer, insurance, and fuel, right? If they're leasing their truck and trailer, they're paying payments on it. And then if their truck and trailer are paid for, that's great. That's less expense they have to pay. So the main expense for carriers obviously is fuel, and then maintenance on the truck, tires, insurance, things like that. So after all those expenses are paid, everything else is profit. So when you're talking to a carrier about potentially being a dispatch for them, that could be part of your pitch too. Like say, hey, I understand, you have expenses. So what is your cents per mile after all of your expenses is paid? And then I'll try to look for loads that come into that range. Then the carrier say, oh yeah, you understand. So that could be a way of pitching to a carrier too. having an understanding, okay, I know you have tires, I know you have insurance to pay for, or else you can't drive the truck. I know you have fuel, or else you couldn't move the truck. Now, I don't know if you own the truck and trailer, or you're leasing the truck and trailer. If you're leasing the truck and trailer, then those are added expenses too. Let's put that in our equation to figure out what is your cents per mile. Because sometimes even carriers may not understand what their numbers are. Some carriers are driving under a loss because they don't understand their numbers. They're just thinking they're making money, and then when they finally do their numbers at tax time, they're like, man, I lost $20,000. So, but yeah, so be careful with the broker getting details about a load. Make sure they'll say, okay, what's you're calling about a load. This is the next step in the evolution of dispatching. You've gotten the load. You and your carrier agreed to that load. So now you, as a dispatcher, you're calling the broker on behalf of your carrier to try to book this load. Get it set up for your carrier. Book it. They call it booking the load, right? So you call them and say, hey, this is Jay. I'm calling about a drive-in load available on the 21st coming out of Baldwin, Florida, heading to Lafayette, Louisiana. Is that load still available? And that's how you would say it. Is it still available? They'll say, yeah, let me check 1 second. They'll check. Yeah, that load's still available. What's your MC number? That's what they use. They'll either ask for MC in most cases or DOT. They'll ask for the MC number most of the cases because they run the MC number through the SAFER system just to see if your carrier is set up. They're going to run it through their internal database first to see if your carrier's MC is set up with their brokerage. What that means is they've ran loads for them before. So if your carrier's MC hits their database and it comes up with their information, that means that they're set up with that brokerage, and you don't have to fill out the carrier packet and provide all that other information because it's already been done. So that saves time. If it has not been, they're going to say, okay, I ran your MC, seems you're not set up with us, but that's no problem. I can just, who do I need to send the carrier packet to? Who do I need to email to? Or in some cases, they'll email you a broker-carrier agreement, or they'll send you a link to their internal website where you can do it online. Most brokerages are nowadays catching up to the 21st century and going online and doing it as opposed to emailing you a PDF to fill out an 18-page or a 10-page or a 7-page carrier packet, right? And this is what a carrier packet looks like. So under Forms and Documents, go back to our Forms and Documents resource area. This is what a carrier packet looks like in the Raycon. So a carrier packet looks like this. The carrier packet from the broker is the same thing as a broker-carrier agreement. That's what that looks like. This one is just happens to be 8 pages, but this is a template of what a carrier packet looks like, or a broker-carrier agreement. So remember I was saying broker-carrier agreement, not broker-dispatch agreement. That's why when you're filling out the broker-carrier agreement on behalf of your carrier, you're not putting your information as the dispatcher here. You're putting whose? The carrier's information. That's the point I was making earlier in the video, in the recording. So this is it right here. The carrier responsibilities, the broker responsibilities, things like that. So you fill this out, read through this. Payment options, when you're filling out the carrier agreement for your carrier, you fill out the broker carrier agreement for your carrier for the broker, there are 3 payment options that are usually available, sometimes 4 if your carrier has what's called a factoring company. But the 3 that the broker offers are a 1 to 2 day quick pay. They'll charge, they charge for this service now. They'll charge 5% of that gross, 1 to 2 day quick pay. That's number 1. Number 2 is a 5 to 7 ACH transfer, wire transfer into a checking or savings account. ACH is a automated clearinghouse. They'll usually ask for a copy of a voided check, or they'll need something. It may be even on the form where you provide your carriers, or your carrier provided, if they fill it out for the first time, the routing number and account number of whatever account, be it checking or savings, that they want the money transferred to. And they charge 3% for that. So 5% for the 1 to 2 day quick pay, 3% for the 5 to 7 day ACH transfer, and then the third option is they'll mail a paper check to the residence of where the carrier lives, their home base. So, but that's all explained in the carrier broker agreement, the packet. Okay, so they'll say, okay, so who do I need to send this? Who do I need to email this or this link to, or who do I need to email this carrier packet to? You, as the dispatcher, you remember the dispatcher again is the middleman between the broker and the carrier. So who do you think the brokers want? Who do you think you want the broker to email that carrier packet to?
To me.
Correct. So you mail it to you, and then you, according to the dispatch agreement, if your carrier checks that little initial where he's giving you permission to do that, and you fill it out for, and it makes sense because that's your whole point as a dispatcher. You want to do all this as quick as possible because your carrier may not have time to do that. He or she is driving. They may be at a loading dock, picking up a load, getting a load. They may be going through some stuff. They may be resting. So while they're under a load, you could be filling out this other paperwork for them for their next load. So now you got that whole process is going. That transition is so smooth. So you're filling that out. You're sending that back. You're emailing it back to the broker along with those other documents. Remember those other documents that we talked about, the W-9, the MC authority, and the certificate of insurance to the broker. So the broker is going to take all this information, the broker carrier agreement, the MC, W-9, and COI, certificate of insurance, put that into their system, process it in, run it by their compliance team for approval, and come back and say, hey, yeah, your carrier has been approved to run the loads. He or she is set up with us to run loads. So now we're going to go ahead and produce a rate confirmation and send that to you so you can sign and send it back to us so this load will officially be booked. The load is officially booked once the rate confirmation has been signed, not when the broker-carrier agreement has been filled out and returned. All the broker-carrier agreement is just to get you set up under that brokerage, or your carrier set up, I should say, under that brokerage to move that current load or any loads for that brokerage in the future. That's it. The rate confirmation is what gets that load booked. That specific loads and other loads with different rate confirmations going forward. This is an example of what a rate confirmation looks like. On the current load that we were referring to, that Baldwin, Florida to Lafayette, they will send a rate confirmation with all that information in it. The load number for that load, the reference number for that load, the piece count, pallet counts, things like that, who the carrier is, their phone number, all the information about that specific load, Baldwin, Florida to Lafayette, Louisiana, will be listed on that rate con. The shipper address where it's picking up in Baldwin, Florida, but on the rate con, you're going to have a specific street address so your carrier can navigate to that location specifically. The same thing with the consignee. Remember I said consignee and consignor? The shipper is the consignor or the origin address. The receiver is the consignee or destination address. So the consignee's address would go here, which would be, in this example, Lafayette, Louisiana, 123 Main Street, or wherever that may be. A load, date, and time, if it's in there, if you have to have it picked up at a certain day and time, if you have to have it delivered at a certain day and time. All of that stuff will be listed on the rate con. Any extra stops, carrier pay, all the detailed information, make sure as a dispatcher that you read over that stuff, because sometimes brokers like to throw in extra stuff that you may overlook, and then when you sign it, send it back in, and you get to the shipper, they say, oh, by the way, yeah, you got to pay for a lumper. We're like, what? I didn't, and then your carrier's calling you saying, man, I had to pay for a lumper. What is a lumper? A lumper is when your carrier gets to a shipper to pick up a load or to a receiver to unload a load, those people in that warehouse who load the truck at the shipper and unload it at the receiver in that warehouse on their forklifts and things like that, they charge for that service. That's called lumper. L-U-M-P-E-R. That's what a lumper fee is. They're charging for that service. Sometimes that's included in the rate of the load on the BOL. Make sure it is. That way your carrier just gets there and he just sits in his truck while they're offloading it, and then he goes into the receiver and gets his paperwork, and he don't have to worry about paying for it because it's already included. The payment is already included. If it is not, make sure you go back to the broker and say, you need to send me another Raycon that includes the covering the cost of the lumber. So, and that stuff comes with experience. You're gonna make mistakes in the beginning. It's good to be part of a community or a group or a network platform that has people who've been through this process and can kind of explain it to you, so you can either avoid it, or when you do come across it, you'll know how to deal with it. So next will be, okay, so you've gotten a Raycon back, or the broker sent the Raycon to your email as the dispatcher, and you go over that with your carrier agrees to it, the weight and all the other stuff. So they send that, you say, oh, yeah, go ahead and sign it, send it back to the broker, let's get this load. So once you sign that, the load is, and the broker receives that signed rate confirmation back from you, then you send that to them. Of course, you want to CC your carrier in. You want to, of course, send them copies of it, the Raycon. When you send it back to the broker, CC your carrier in, so they'll have it too, along with the carrier packet. They want to have a copy of that too for their records. And of course, you have a copy of the carrier packets and the Raycons for your record as a dispatching company. I got all my upstairs in my home office. I got all my I got a big accordion filing system with all the carriers and carrier packets and Raycons that I've done over the past, couple of years. So now you send that back. So now the next thing the broker's going to ask for, okay, if it's not on the Raycon, they're going to ask for the truck and trailer number, the first and last name, and the cell number of the driver who's picking up that load, let's say in this example, in Baldwin, Florida. So you give them that name, you say John Doe, area code 555-123-456. His truck number is 1, his trailer number is 2. The reason the broker is asking for that, because while the driver is the carrier is under that brokered load for that broker, they are going to be doing what's called check calls. Every so often they're going to call and ask where you are, or call the carrier asking them where you are, what's your ETA, things like that. Now sometimes it can get annoying, other times it's fine. They'll call you that one time, or your carrier that one time when they pick up from the shipper, and they'll say, okay, have you picked up yet? So they can let their customer know that it's been picked up, because brokers have to answer to somebody, which is the shipper, their customer. So they'll let them know, okay, the carrier's there. He's picked up on October 21st at 8 a.m. He's leaving out now. So then as he's driving a few hours, he'll receive a cell phone call. Okay, where are you? I'm 100 miles outside of where I just picked up from. I'll be there because this load here is 650 miles. My ETA is about 4 hours, 5 hours, or 8 hours. And then once you get to the receiver, you'll get another check call. Okay, I arrived here at, this is a day and a half, you would say. So I arrived there on the 23rd of October at 9:30. So the broker does check calls because they need to keep their customer updated, because you have their load under your truck, on your trailer. So that's why the broker's doing that. Or you have the broker's customer's load, which is the shipper's load, and the shipper answers to their customer, which could be a manufacturing company, could be a distributing company, could be a wholesale company, could be a retail company. So whoever the shipper's customers is, they have to make sure that they are monitoring their freight under your carrier's truck. So that's why the broker is doing what's called check calls. And if there are any discrepancies, any accidents, any delays, your carrier probably will let you know, or they may call the broker directly, say, hey man, I just ran into a bottleneck to a traffic jam. I'm going to be about 30 minutes late on this delivery. It's better to let the broker know so they can inform their shipper, so they can make preparations, than to not say anything at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's better because communication is key. Because we know this is the transportation industry, so a lot of things happen. It's a very volatile industry, so a lot of things happen. Accidents happen. You see trucks tilted over on the side of the road all the time. You wonder, man, I hope that wasn't one of my carriers under that load or something like that, because It's just a lot of delays going on in that process. But a lot of things happen. Communication is key. So the carrier, you and the carrier communicate, and then you and the broker, or your carrier and the broker communicate, and go from there. So now so here's the process in the evolution again. So you got the carrier in the agreement, you got a load, you talk to the broker, you booked the load, your carrier is on his or her way to pick this load up from the shipper. So they get to the shipper, they get loaded, they get what's called a BOL, a bill of lading, right? And in most cases, it's 3 carbon copy layers. It shows the pallet count of what's being loaded. It has the shipper's information, it has the receiver's information, and it has the carrier's information. So when you're first loaded there at the shipper is going to sign their portion. Now the 3 carbon copies is the same. It's split in like thirds. So the top third is the shipper information, the middle may be the receiver, and then the bottom is the carrier. So the shipper is going to sign his portion, tear off that first copy of the BOL saying, okay, the pallet count is good, everything was loaded in good condition, nothing was damaged, everything was clean, and the seal number for the back of the truck, because sometimes they put seals on the back of the truck. So the seal number to document that this is the truck that has this load based off of this seal number. Tear that sheet off, and then the carrier signs that, proving or indicating that, confirming that. Tear it off so the shipper has that first copy. When the carrier gets to the receiver to get unloaded, they get unloaded, they check the freight, make sure nothing was damaged, make sure the pallet count was right. If there was something that was damaged, they'll notate it on the BOL. So, if any claims or anything that needs to be taken out of the load or whatever, they'll notate any damaged freight or any short pallets or anything that came in incorrect. The receiver will sign that. The carrier will sign by the receiver's name, indicating that as well. The receiver tears that second carbon copy off of the BOL. The last copy, the BOL, is the carrier's, because that's their invoice, that's their receipt, their proof of delivery. That's what they use to get paid. So they'll either take a picture of it or upload it to the broker, or send it to their factoring company so they can get paid quicker. Once the carrier gets paid, then they'll let you know, and then you invoice your carrier for your amount for that service, your percentage, whether you charge between 5 and 10% for your dispatching services. And that's dispatching in a nutshell. And then you do that process over and over again. And then there's strategies within the process. So because as you're finding loads with different brokers for one carrier in a specific area, you're starting to notice that some brokers have better freight in this area, and then other brokers have better freight in other areas. So then you start sending that one carrier to those areas and then getting them out back to the other areas. So now you're setting up consistent runs or consistent lanes for that specific carriers. So now your dispatching techniques are getting better, because now you're seeing brokers with better paying loads, and you're asking them, say, hey man, I see my carrier just ran a load for you. Everything was good. We did it successfully. How often do you run these loads out of this area? And the broker say, well, I do it once a week, twice a week. We do it daily. Okay, I can have my truck back in Jacksonville from where did they go? Louisiana. I can have them back by Thursday. We picked up Monday and we delivered in Louisiana on Wednesday. So the key with that is now you got to find a load Wednesday, Wednesday, and then get them back to that Jacksonville load. So I can have my guy back Friday. So now here's where the strategy come in at. So now you have to find a good broker in Louisiana that's having loads going back toward the Jacksonville area, so you can get back to that good load, and then even set up a relationship with the broker in Louisiana to have them going to Jacksonville. So now you got a back and forth thing with that one carrier. So, and that's how that works. So you do that consistently, and then you just take that whole process and master it, and then duplicate it by putting in another carrier of the same equipment type in that same lane. So now you're growing as a dispatcher. And that's the technique. Follow that?
I'm with you.
I see Demontre. Demontre, what's going on? I hope that wasn't too overwhelming, Jay.
It was a lot, but I mean, it wasn't overwhelming, but it was a lot, to it, a lot more than I assumed. But
Well, and this is
doable.
recorded.
I really think it's doable with the right training and the proper guidance.
And this is recorded. It's going to be on the training video area for members, and then on the YouTube channel for anyone. So the YouTube channel is Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners, all spelled out like that. So yeah. So something to consider. I mean, even if you don't get trained with this platform, just some type of dispatch training. Now, if you have someone who goes into detail like this or can give you, then that's, even if it's not me, that's fine. I just want you to get what you are seeking as far as the training to be a dispatcher. So.
Now, for your training, I know you want to stay on topic, but before you wrap up, if you don't mind, just kind of going over your training.
Yeah. You mean the cost and things like that, or?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, certainly. On the website, yeah, because it's about time anyway. Got about 12 minutes for Q&A. That's a question, so I'll go ahead and answer it. Let me log out of this. So on so if you go to the website and go under enroll, and I'll put a link in here for you. But so if you go to enroll, add this to here. There. So Jay, I don't know if are you military?
My daughter is. I missed it by 21 years as of yesterday.
So well, I usually say if you or an immediate family member. So I don't know if your daughter stays with you or not. Well, if you're military, I will give the military veterans discount of $249. Now, in either case, $249 or the $299 single member or the 2-for-1. So if you know somebody who wants to come in with you, you guys join the 2-for-1. That's the $499. If you wasn't military, it would be the $299 single membership to enroll, and then $249. And then after you enroll, there's a $39.99 a month subscription membership to maintain access to the tools and resources. Because the tools and resources are growing, we're adding more features to the platform. We're coming in with direct shippers to kind of eliminate the broker aspect of it. I don't want to say eliminate the broker, because you're going to always need brokers. Even with direct shippers, you still may need a backhaul back to the shipper's loads. You might get a lane from a shipper going from an origin to a destination, but not from the destination back to that original origin. So to get from that destination back to the original origin, you may have to broker a load to pay for the fuel to get you back to your money load, which is that direct shipper. So you're never going to not need a broker. You just not use them a lot, more when you have direct shippers. So, but anyway, the initial enrollment is $299 or $249 for the veterans, or $499 if you have two people want to join for the price of one, 2-for-1. 1 month after you enroll starts the monthly $39.99 subscription to maintain access to the tools and resources. Because again, we're evolving and it's getting a little bit bigger to help show a little skin in the game, I guess you would say. And it's worth its weight. Even the price is worth it, because all the load boards that we provide, the 3 ebooks, the glossary, the live trainings, my cell number, people can call me anytime. Just leave a voicemail if I don't pick up. I'm putting my number here now. So, and that's it. So you just enroll, and then once you enroll, I get an alert for that. I send you an email with instructions on what to do next. It's like 3 or 4 steps. You go into the back office area. You set up a email and password login. I get an alert in the back office because I'm the webmaster of this. Everything on the website you see, I've designed it. It's built on the Wix.com platform or framework, but all the content, I put it in myself. So you go here, you watch the video, you sign up for the email and password to have access to everything after that. So from chat all the way down, you're going to need an email and password to log in if you are an enrolled member, subscription-based member. That's what that means. Once you sign up with an email and password and you hit submit, I get an alert in the back office of the web design portal, Wix.com, and then I'll go ahead and approve that. And then we have Facebook groups, Dispatcher 101, Exodus Logistics, Learning Center, and the how much money you need to move your truck, Facebook groups. And then there's a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that, the one I just mentioned earlier, Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners. So there's a lot of content, a lot of videos back there. The training videos are in the back office. Again, they are grouped by months. And you can go back and watch a lot of the training videos for a lot of content. It's recorded, so you can rewind it and fast forward as you need. So from November, the reason why November is first is because that's when I first started to have the website designed and put up live. So, and in each one, there's a host of videos for that specific month. So, and if you see it, they're dated weekly, the title of it, what it is, and the YouTube link for it. So, good evening, everyone. This is Charles with Exodus Dispatching and Training.
So,
Ken is, Ken, can you see someone I let the app has been modified? Yeah. Ken, are you, you're an enrolled, you're a subscription-based member, right? And I will, let me double check. But did that answer your question there, Day? I'm sorry.
Yes, it did. And I just wanted to confirm with the $39.99 per month, that gives you access to all of the load boards.
You have access, when you first enroll, you have access to the 10 load boards that are going to be there in the back office, but the $39.99 gives you access to 2 of the other, the higher end load boards. In addition to the 10 that you have, there are 2 other ones, Internet Truck Stop and DAT Truck. I think DAT Trucker's Edge is, there's a login for that on the regular one, but the other DAT Truck Stop Pro and the other DAT Trucker's Edge are for subscription-based members. And then there are other tools and resources that are coming down the pipeline that I'm preparing for, different contracts, and we have a freight forwarder that we're dealing with. We have direct shippers that we're dealing with. So they are joining the platform, so they're providing their resources to our platform so to make our dispatching jobs a little easier.
And what is the subscription? I'm sorry, I don't want to seem like I'm lost. But you said a subscription portion of it. Is that an addition to the $39.99?
Yeah, that would be included with the $39. Yeah, that's included in that. All the other resources that I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, Kenny G. What did you Kenny G, what is your name as you registered under Kenny _ Grandy Cal? Okay. So I'm looking for you, Kenny. So if you register, I think you're under the Okay, yeah. Kenny Grandy, yeah, you're under the, you registered, because I have everybody, you registered prior to August, okay, yeah. So you registered prior to August 1st when we did the subscription base. Right, I got you now, Kenny. So I did add the 123 load board for those who registered prior to August 1st, so that's in there. So if you click under, Kenny, if you click under, go to load boards. I don't want to do it here on the live training because there are people here who are not members, but if you click here, the new 123 load board and the other load boards are in there, updated. The 123 load board is updated. So. Any other questions? I didn't get a chance to, well, I called one carrier, but I didn't get a chance to call other carriers. The Montre was in here. I was going to let him know that the old DAT, it is, Kenny, the old DAT under Joanne, one of my carriers, that login is there, but my login for DAT is not. Because that login, my login for DAT is reserved for the subscription-based members, but the old DAT Truckers Edge is in there. It should be in there. And let me know if it is not. Any more questions? Hey, Linda. Robert's still hanging in there. And look forward to you considering at least, Jay.
I definitely am. Once we're done here, I'm going to get on and take a look at the website and everything and just kind of process. But I think I'll definitely be joining you. This was a great training.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Kenny, you are not subscription-based. You joined prior to August 1st. You joined the 25th of July, I believe. So you're not paying the $39.99. Yeah, you joined the 28th of. You joined at a discount. So you did, but you're not a subscription based. Just wanted to make sure that. Okay. All right, guys. Any other questions? 1 o'clock on the dot. What is this, Sunday? So I guess I'll see you guys. I'll be adding content though. You are grandfathered into, you're grandfathered into the 10 load boards in the back office, but the newer load boards that I just added recently, like within the last month, are reserved specifically for the subscription-based members because that way because they have a little bit more skin in the game than you, because they're providing that $39.99 subscription. You do have the 10 load boards, and one of those 10 are included with the subscription base. The 123 load board is one of the 3 that I also give to the subscription base, but the other 2, the only load board that you do not see that the subscription based members see is Internet Truck Stop. The other 2, DAT Truckers Edge and 123 load board, you do see. All right. Okay. See you guys, Wednesday? Wednesday at 6 p.m. for the next live training. Of course, any questions prior to that, give me a call. You got my number. 757-5684. There we go. As always, guys, have a good one. Enjoy your Sunday. And have a successful work week this coming week.